Hello everyone and welcome to my presentation on Jack Davis. Davis is a legendary comic book artist with a career spanning decades and a body of work to reflect that. Throughout this presentation I will be covering some of the key points in Davis's life and his body of work. Before getting into anything, I'll be covering his artistic style and influences so that informs the rest of the information you're about to hear. To start with, I'll be talking about Davis's early life in high school and how he was then drafted into the Navy, how the GI Bill allowed Davis to get into the University of Georgia, how Davis then transitioned from the University of Georgia into early comic book work and then eventually Mad Magazine, and then also some of the movie posters and magazines he's worked on during his career. So without any further ado, let's get into the presentation. Davis is often described as having a major influence on comic book illustration and the comic book world as a whole. Many artists have said that they have been directly influenced by Davis's work and style, and one particular artist is Sam Viviano. Viviano has also worked with Mad Magazine for a very long time and has described Davis's style as an instantly recognizable style that revolutionized comic book illustration. Davis's style typically consisted of distorted anatomy, which was usually big feet and heads, a bold use of watercolor, and cross-hatching. In an interview with Fran Lane, he said that his art style came from a love of Sunday morning cartoons, and this was particularly evident in his interest for Alex Raymond and Harold Foster, who were responsible for illustrating the Flash Gordon and Prince Valiant comics. In this same interview, when he was questioned on his process, he just simply answered saying that he just enjoys drawing and has fun with it. Moving on to Davis's early life. Davis was born as John Burton Davis Jr. on December 2nd, 1924 in Atlanta, Georgia. Davis showed great artistic promise at a young age, and in an interview with Fran Lane, he recalled drawing a chain gang in kindergarten, which he described as just some stickmen with stripes. However, despite his own critiques, his parents were very impressed with his work and encouraged him to pursue his artistic abilities. Davis was first published at 12 years old in 1936 with Tip Top Comics. However, I can't really find a copy of his work on the comic due to the technological issues of the time. He continued drawing comics for his high school newspaper and also worked on his yearbook. Davis states that this allowed him to have the opportunity to work with a gentleman who was responsible for all the yearbooks in Atlanta, and this is where he was taught to draw with a brush instead of a pencil, which is key to Davis's style now. After high school, Davis was drafted into the Navy in 1943, where he served the majority of his time in Guam, an island just to the east of the Philippines. Davis primarily drew comics for the Navy News, and once he had his leave, he took it in Shanghai and drew the comic Boondocker, which he says is primarily influenced from a comic called Sad Sack, which is of a similar subject matter, a soldier away from home in a foreign country. When Davis returned home, in his interview with Fran Lane, he states that he would show the comics he created to his dad. Davis's father then took these comics to the Dean of the University of Georgia, and as a result of the Veteran Readjustment Act, or commonly referred to as the GI Bill, Davis was then allowed to enroll in the university. In his time at the UGA, Davis was very productive and contributed to the campus in a major way. First, he would work on the university newsletter, The Red and Black, where Davis would do his usual thing, drawing comics. However, off campus, Davis would sell his own comics by the title of Bullsheet. This featured risque jokes and humour, which allowed Davis to put more of himself into his work. Perhaps most notably, however, was his work on the Bulldog mascot, which has since earned Davis legendary Bulldog status within the university. They have honoured Davis since with many exhibitions on campus. Davis was originally a journalism student, however, didn't graduate. Despite this, after having much success in the comic books, he decided to get a part-time job where he worked with Ed Dodds on his comic Mark Trail. Under Dodd's encouragement, Davis would move to New York and study in the Art Students League, which he then met William Gaines and then worked on his comic book series Tales from the Crypt under EC Comics. After EC Comics, Davis transitioned to working on Mad Magazine, a satirical publication that parodied a lot of pop culture. As one of the usual gang of idiots, Davis was given this name as he's one of the founding members, along with a few others. Davis worked very closely with Harvey Kurtzman and illustrated many parodies written by him. This included stories such as The Lone Stranger, which parodied The Lone Ranger, and Ha Noon, which parodied High Noon. In 1957, Davis left Mad to support Kurtzman in his own endeavours and his own stories, which included parodies such as Trump and other publications. However, in 1965, Davis returned to Mad, which he then worked for them for another 30 years and over. In addition to his work on comic books, as a result of Davis's fast turnaround, he also worked on a large amount of posters and magazines. Some notable posters that Davis has worked on include It's a Mad, 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 Mad World by Stanley Kramer, which Davis has then parodied himself in Mad Magazine. He's also worked on Woody Allen's Bananas and The Long Goodbye by Robert Altman. In terms of magazines, Davis has worked on publications such as TV Guide and Time Magazine. However, in an interview with the AV Club, Davis states that his personal favourite work he has done with Time Magazine, where he would spoof a lot of the key figures of the 70s, like Richard Nixon, Gerald Ford, and Jimmy Carter. Davis would then receive many awards from 1996 onwards, including the Milton Caniff Lifetime Achievement Award, the Reuben Award, and was also inducted into the Illustrators Hall of Fame in 2005. After a long career, Davis retired in 2014 and eventually passed away at 91 years old on the 27th of July 2016. He was the last surviving member of the Mad's founding usual gang of idiots. He lived his life as a sweet gentleman with a razor-sharp wit, and I personally feel lucky to have covered such an amazing artist's life and work, as a lot of his style aligns with my own tastes and interests. I would highly recommend people to research him further because he has truly had a fascinating life. But yeah, that's been my presentation. I've hoped you enjoyed listening, and if you have any questions, feel free to ask me and leave them in the comments below.